Hello humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Here I am reading my Substack. If you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe. You can read the stuff that I'm probably going to be talking about. There's some things on there that I'm going to make videos on, some not, but you guys can go check it out. It's easier for me to try to build content this way because, I can use the text-to-speech feature and try to write, little writings on there, maybe a little bit of an essay, depending what the topic is, and you guys can follow along. So today we're talking about the Atari SNK collab, right? We want to bring Neo Geo games back to life. I really do. I really do, guys. When it comes to retro games, a lot of times I feel that the Neo Geo gets left behind because they didn't have such a strong console. So I'm going to read you a few words that I wrote here, as I was thinking about this. Because Neo Geo was the best console that no one owned. When gamers reflect on the golden age of home consoles like the NES, Super NES, and Sega Genesis, the first things that come to mind are the games for those, consoles. But there was a powerful king back in the day, right? It was a PlayStation 5 Pro of its day, if you will, that would let you play games with pretty much arcade perfection. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about, now it's SNK Neo Geo. Back in the day, it was just Neo Geo. And it was, it was released in 1990, the PlayStation Pro of its day. Like I said, it was a marvel for its time. And it was a great console. But that taste of glory from back in the day had a price tag of $600. And the cartridges are like $200. So you can imagine what would be that, like $1,000 today. So it really remained out of most people's hands, right? It wasn't something that the public at large could own. It really wasn't. It wasn't for your average gamer. Despite the technical superiority of the machine, which is undeniable, it's never really mentioned in the same breath with a Genesis or the NES or the TurboGrafx, which we all love, right? Undeniable. But I was thinking, if they were to team up with Atari and Atari's retro revival, along with Digital Eclipse, and using their expertise, they've already done a few things, but Atari's recent acquisition of Digital Eclipse, and that was back in 2023, right? Presents a unique opportunity to relive or revive these underappreciated and, in my opinion, very underrated SNK and some Neo Geo franchises. Digital Eclipse has proven with their work, they have a proven track record of handling, retro projects with the utmost care, right? Their experience in remastering classic games really aligns with Atari's strategy of revitalizing legacy properties. And I think that a collaboration between Atari, Digital Eclipse, and now SNK Neo Geo, I would call it the Dream Team. It could bring a whole new wave of Neo Geo inspired titles to modern audiences. Because let's face it, those properties are just sitting there. Most people play them on emulation, or they play them on a Nintendo Switch. But you could do so much more. And SNK really doesn't have to invest anything. They just have to lend the properties out, and earn a commission, right? But those games could be marketed to a modern audience. Now, I'm not talking about the modern audience that likes the Veilguard, right? I'm talking in general, for everybody, regardless of who you are, right? You could have the best of both worlds, combining faithful remakes with bold reimaginings, like they did with Yars Rising. Now, beyond remakes, I want them to reimagine the Neo Geo legacy. There's so many games. You guys are watching them right now on screen. You can go up and down, look at all the different kinds of games. right? There's classic Neo Geo titles. The better potential lies in creating reimagined games that honor those original titles, right? But introducing new gameplay and modern aesthetics, right? Yars Rising is a prime example of an old school game that has been reinterpreted for modern style, right? And they could keep that anime style, even though it's 16-bit, and bring it to a more modern audience. Or you can even do modern 16-bit. This approach could breathe new life into SNK's extensive catalog, for Metal Slug, Fatal Fury, and lesser known gems that nobody even talks about anymore. Shock Troopers, The Last Blade. There's so many underrated games in this catalog that it's incredible. Imagine a modern take on Magician Lord, right? With fluid animation, expanded story, or a great soccer game that I used to play. Everybody here in the West Coast, guys, in East Los Angeles, Road to Glory 98 was the shit snits, baby. Now imagine that with online multiplayer. All kinds of grandpas and theos would be out there playing, right? Or a new King of Fighters titles that could blend like the traditional 2D fighting with innovative mechanics. Something like Guilty Gear Survive would be cool. Guys, I'm already foaming at the mouth just thinking about it. And these are all fantasies, by the way. I have no proof that this is going to happen. But I think it's a good conversation, if you're driving, if you're about to go to sleep, if you like talking about video games. This is another subject that I came up with when my wife asked me, "What are you doing?" And of course, these games could launch across multiple platforms, right? So they can get that cheddar, so they can get that return on investment, so we can keep the retro train going. You sell them on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and of course the Atari VCS, and now that My Arcade game station, right? You could with that you could ensure maximum reach, right? Even puzzle games, think about it. Even puzzle games or simple sports games from the Neo Geo library could be revived into mobile, like Puzzle Bobble or Bubble, whatever it's called, and they could be exported to gaming devices. I'm sure they are now, but you can do fresh takes on them, and you can do all this, and even put them in the game station hardware. You can be expanding with that library, guys. You could have sports, puzzle games, and so much more. Neo Geo, of course, had excellent fighters. But it wasn't just about fighting games. Those of us who lived in the arcades, right, we knew the diverse lineup that they would have. When we walked up to that red cabinet, there was at least 4 games in there. And we got to pick. And a lot of times there were sports games. The beauty of the sports game of this franchise is there's no team, so it doesn't matter. Right? You can do reimaginings. You could play them. And like I told you, Super Sidekicks was one of my favorites too. Those were always available. But, a lot of people never forget Neo Turf Masters. That's like a cult favorite from back in the day, right? And with modern graphical enhancements, refined mechanics, I think these games would attract people and fans. I think they would, even for a service, if they wanted to do that. Atari's recent focus, by the way, on recent partnerships and releasing games on multi-platform, except for the Amico, it could really efficiently revive this market that SNK now owns, across all kinds of digital storefronts and mobile, of course. And they could do even hardware collaborations, The synergy between these companies, right, in my mind, and I'm just thinking, guys, like I said, this is just a topic for conversation, could redefine how these retro games would come back. And of course, you got to think of a console, because what they've done with SNK, as far as the console, they really needed to do a Neo Geo Mini. That's what they should have done, right? And I don't want to look at my games just as museum pieces, you know, for the John Hancock Museum that's never going to open. I want to, you know, share these games with everybody. I think they're great games, you know. And I think it's a collaboration that benefits everybody if they would do it, right? Of course, it's just my dream team for bringing these properties up. And guys, you know, I know there's controversy with SNK and whatever, who owns it now, what have you, but I'm not going to get to the politics of it. I'm talking about games, you know. I really haven't kept up with the news or anything like that. So I'm trying to make content here that are just topics of conversations that we can listen to, right? And, you know, that you can listen to at any time and, you know, just discuss and just think about these ideas, right? Because besides being, you know, what I call a dream team, if you were able to put them together, they could really revive an underappreciated catalog, right? And that's just my opinion, right? In gaming history, I think it's one of the most underappreciated catalogs as a whole. Now, there's certain games that stand out, but when you think of a catalog, we always think about, you know, the NES, we think about the Genesis, but we never think about that SNK catalog, even as an arcade, right? We just don't do that. But I think if they use Atari's marketing power now, developing SNK's and Neo Geo's library legendary franchises, and we call it SNK Play More now, I guess, you know, that would be the name. You know, it would really enhance all the companies and make Atari a force in the gaming market, even more than it's starting to be now. I think this would elevate them to a whole new stratosphere. Now, unlike the original run in the 90s, where the price exclusivity really kept people from playing these games, I think the sweet spot is what Yars Rising showed you. That $30 price point for these games that would just be pick up and play, casual type of games, but games that people love, would give, you know, retro gamers the opportunity to buy them in physical form. The lower price would allow new players to purchase them, you know, if they don't want to pay the $60, $70, $100 now that you have for new games. And you have games that you can play over and over again, specifically fighting games, puzzle games, sports games. I mean, those are things that you can play over and over again and really represent a value to the customer. All right, guys, I'm going to put a link down below to my Substack so you can see all the references where I got some of the information from, you know, even though this is really just an opinion discussion topic, right? And don't forget to subscribe if you have any suggestions for topics that we can talk about, you know, not necessarily what's going on now, but things that you might think about, you know, that have to do with retro gaming or the gaming industry. I'll be happy to touch on them and talk about them. This is the way I'm doing videos now, guys. If you go to the Substack, a lot of that stuff I write with text to speech. You know, I'm very fast typist too, so as long as I don't look at the screen too long, I can just type it out. You know, I can basically put the screen to sleep, and I'm just typing away, man. And it's an easier way for me to communicate with you guys and stop making content, because let me tell you, this recovery has just been terrible. All I'm doing is you know, homework, and I'm using text to speech and readers to do everything to avoid as much screen time as possible. You know, I have the kiddos stop by and they play games, and I'm not looking at the screen, but they're having fun. You know, I kind of glance over once in a while. But you know, I really have strict instructions right now, and you know, of course, I'm having a couple of issues. But you know, we just have to write it out and recover, right? Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for checking out my channel. If you like these kind of videos, hey, you know, go ahead and subscribe. Guys, I will catch you on the next one. Take care.
New videos every Monday and Sunday. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Gen X Gamer. Remember to like and subscribe, click that notification bell, and remember, never ever be afraid to be happy. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.